The cargo manifest said livestock. I had read it twice before I noticed she was reading it with me. There is a slot in the side of a Class 3 freight crate I height for the average bipedal vendor inspection. The slot is meant for the inspector. It is not meant for the cargo to look out of. The cargo was looking out of it. Two eyes set wide, the pupils slit horizontally like a goat's, the irises the color of old copper. She blinked once while I read. I blinked back. I do not know why I did that. I have done dumber things at sales counters. The bill of lading was clipped to the crate with a magnetic pin that had outlived 3 owners. I unclipped it. The Vesh have a kinship economy code system, 14 characters, the last 6 describing relationship to the head of the kin line. Hers read TIRRU NA 7K UMD call. 7K was age in standard years. UMD was unmarried daughter. Call was collateral. The line above it listed the debt. 42,000 units of refined hydrogen, owed to a shipping cartel I had heard of and did not like. The line below it listed the buyer. The buyer was an address on Sector 12, Rim. The buyer's name had been redacted, which on a Vesh manifest meant pleasure house or worse. I read it twice to be sure. Then I read it a third time because the eyes in the slot were still on me. A Vesh male approached down the dock. 3 of his arms were folded across his thorax. The 4th carried a stylus and a slate. The ring fur around his throat was raised in the formal pattern that meant I am here on family business and will not be brief. I had bought a coolant pump from his cousin 2 years back. I had not liked the cousin either. Mechanic Calloway, he said. The translator on my collar smoothed the edges of his name for him. I am Kesek Na of the Tiru kin line. I am here to release the inventory item to your custody. You will feed her once per ship day. Methane, 50 parts per. She does not require speech. That's so. It is so, he tapped the slate. Your contract is logged. Signature, please. I looked at the crate. The eyes were still there. I looked back at Kesek Na. I'd like to see the buyer paperwork, I said. The buyer paperwork is the cartel's. I'd like to see your authority to consign on behalf of the cartel. The ring fur around his throat flattened a ½ millimeter. On a Vesh, that is the equivalent of a man checking his watch and frowning at it. The signature, please, mechanic. I'd like to see, I said, slow as I could, the assignment of carriage from the cartel to your kin line. I'd like to see the kin line's letter of consignment. I'd like to see the buyer's prepayment manifest. Then I'd like to see the inspection certificate from this dock. Then I'd like to sign. He stared at me. I do not know what a Vesh stare means in their literature. I know what one means at a freight dock at 0600 local. It means you are about to cost me my morning. You have no authority to request these documents. I have the authority of any carrier to refuse a load until paperwork clears. I took the manifest off the crate with my left hand. With my right, I unclipped the inspection stamp from my belt and pressed it down on the top page. The stamp said rejected. It said it in 3 languages, including theirs. Kesek Na's 4th arm twitched. The stylus in it tapped once against his thorax. You will regret this. Probably. He turned and walked away with the particular speed of someone going to find an authority figure who will explain to me what I have just done. I had perhaps 11 minutes. I crouched down by the slot in the crate. Up close the eyes were less like a goat's. They were tired in a way I had seen before, on faces that had nothing else in common with hers. I'm going to open this, I said. You're going to walk to my ship. It's 2 berths over. You don't have to hurry. She did not answer. The translator did not flag a subvocalization. I had not really expected one. I cracked the seal. The crate hissed and released a curl of methane fog. She unfolded out of it in the bound posture they use for inventory, 3 wrists cuffed across her chest, the 4th left free to mark her as living goods. She was a head shorter than me. Her ring fur was flat against her neck. She did not move. I waited. I waited the way you wait for a frightened animal that you have no business approaching, which is to say I made myself the least interesting object in the room. I looked at the deck plate. I counted the rivets. She took one step. Then she took another. I straightened up slowly and walked toward the ship without looking back, because looking back would have been a sales pitch, and she had had enough of those. I heard her follow. She would not sit in the chair. She crouched beside it, which was apparently a compromise. The margin call had 2 crash seats in the cockpit, both of them rated for a human spine, and neither of them for whatever Tiruna's spine was doing. She was folded against the bulkhead in a posture that put 3 of her wrists on the deck and the 4th wrapped across her knees, and she had not moved in 11 minutes. 11 minutes is a long time to not move while a man you do not know lifts a freighter through a customs window he is not supposed to be lifting through. I had filed a course correction with the buoy at 0621. I had filed an emergency departure at 0623. I had lit the burn at 0624. HFY Control had asked me a polite question at 0625. I had not answered it. By 0630, we were past the methane snowline and accelerating, and the polite question had become a less polite one, and I had silenced the calm. I looked over at her. "You okay over there?" She did not answer. The translator did not flag. "Right." I had 3 problems and I numbered them while the burn ran. Problem 1. I did not know what a Vesh ate. Problem 2. I did not know what a Vesh breathed in the specifics. Problem 3. I did not know what a Vesh did when you put one in a human freighter and pointed it at empty space. Problems 1 and 2 would kill her inside a ship day if I guessed wrong. Problem 3 was less urgent, but I was beginning to suspect it was the one that mattered. The burn cut. I unstrapped. "Methane," I said, mostly to the cabin air. 50 parts per. He said 50 parts per. The freighter has a habitat bulkhead I had installed during the Corlu run, a methane side compartment about the size of a closet, fed by a separate scrubber. I had not used it in 8 months. I cycled it now, set the nitrogen ratio to what I half remembered from a chart I had not looked at recently, opened the bulkhead, and gestured at it. She looked at the bulkhead. She looked at the gauge above it. She did not move. "It's safe," I said. "It's set right." She walked over. She did not walk like a frightened animal anymore. She walked like an inspector. She put one knuckle against the nitrogen gauge and tapped it. Once. The needle did not move. She tapped it again. Then she looked at me. I looked at the gauge. The setting was wrong. I had it at 14%. The right number, I now remembered with a particular cold feeling, was 9. "Christ," I said. I rolled the dial down. The needle settled. She watched me do it. I watched her watch me. "Thanks," I said. She did not have the word. I could see she did not have the word. But the translator on her collar, Kesekna, had left it on her, which was the one decent thing he had done, would have given her the inflection. The ring fur on her throat lifted, maybe a millimeter, maybe less. She walked into the methane compartment. She did not close the bulkhead behind her. After a minute she sat down on the deck, and after another minute she put her 4th arm out across her knees, palm up. I do not know if that meant something. I logged it anyway. The next ship day we worked out a protocol. She handled the methane side bulkheads, pressure checks, scrubber filters, the small daily maintenance the compartment required. I handled everything else. She referred to herself in 3rd person when she spoke at all, which was rarely. "Tiruna requires water. Tiruna has cleaned the filter." I did not correct her. I did not know what the correction would mean if she accepted it, and I did not want to find out by accident. I started saving her the last of the ration cubes she liked. They were the green ones. I did not like the green ones. I told myself this was efficient resource allocation. On the 2nd ship day the comm pinged. "Vesh Corvette transponder, military code." I let it ping 3 times before I opened it. Kesekna's voice filled the cabin. "Mechanic, you have stolen property of the Tiru kin line. Return her or we take her." In the methane compartment, the ring fur on Tiruna's throat went flat. "I have run from a lot of things. Vesh corvettes turn out to be one of the things you cannot outrun. The Margin Call is a Class 3 freighter rated for cargo, not pursuit. Her main burn produces 0.6 G sustained. A Vesh corvette of the kind now sitting 40,000 kilometers off my stern produces 2.1. The math is the math. I did the math in about 4 seconds and then I did it again because I wanted it to come out differently. It did not. What a Class 3 freighter has that a corvette does not is the right to file for arbitration. The neutral arbitration buoy at HFY was a hop and a half away. If I could reach the buoy line, Vesh law no longer applied unilaterally. We would still have a problem. We would have a different problem. I have always preferred different problems to the same one. I plotted the course. I lit the burn. The corvette pinged me twice for surrender. I did not answer. 40 seconds into the burn, the corvette fired one shot, precision, surgical, exactly the shot you would fire if you wanted to slow a freighter without killing the merchandise. My port maneuvering thrusters went dark. I cursed in 3 languages, and one of them was hers, which I had picked up off the translator log without meaning to. Tiruna, I said, I need you to vent and reseal the methane bulkhead on a sequence I'm going to call out. I'm going outside. She was in the cockpit door. She had been there since the burn lit. Outside. The hull, I have a salvage thruster in cargo. I can splice it to the port array. We need the array to make the buoy line. The splice runs through the methane side service trunk. I can't open the trunk in vacuum without venting your compartment. You can. You handle the seals from inside, I handle the splice from outside. Can you do that? She looked at me. The ring fur on her throat was lifting and flattening in a pattern I had not seen before. I think it was thinking. Yes, she said, first person. The word was there in her language. She had used it. I logged it and did not say anything. I suited up. I went out. Vacuum is quiet in a way that no recording captures. The hull of my freighter at 0.3 G of residual burn was warm under my gloves and humming through the soles of my boots. I clipped my tether at the airlock ring and walked the hull rail with the salvage thruster slung over my shoulder. The thruster weighed 46 kilos in standard. Out here it weighed something I did not want to calculate while carrying it. The splice point was 12 meters along the dorsal spine. I got there in 3 minutes. The splice itself took longer. Work was, cut the dead line at the junction, strip 8 centimeters of insulation, mate the salvage feed, crimp, seal, pressurize, test. In atmosphere with a bench vise it is a 40-minute job. In vacuum with one glove on the 3rd finger seal whining under pressure it was something else. My left bicep cramped at the 3-minute mark. The faceplate fogged on the inside left where my breath hit cold metal. The glove seal whined again. I ignored it because the alternative was thinking about it. Seal 1, I said into the suit comm. Vent. Venting, said Tiruna. I heard the bulkhead release. I waited 8 seconds. Reseal. Reseal complete. Seal 2, vent. We went through the sequence 3 times. Each time her voice came back faster, more sure of itself. Each time it was first person. The comm crackled, not the suit comm, the corvettes. Kesegna patched through to my external channel. Mechanic, I will offer you twice her sale price. Turn the ship around. I had the crimping tool in my right hand and the salvage feed in my left, and the splice was at the part where if you let go of either one you start over. I did not let go of either one. I let him hang for 2 seconds. The hull creaked under my boots. No, I said. I went back to work. The splice took another 6 minutes. The salvage thruster, when I tested it, responded at 68% of nominal. 68% of nominal was enough. I climbed back to the airlock with my left arm useless from the cramp and my faceplate half fogged and the buoy line 19 minutes out. I cycled in. Tiruna was at the inner door. Her 4th arm was extended, palm up. I did not know what it meant. I put my glove in her palm anyway. She closed her hand around it. We made the burn. The corvette closed to weapons range and then slowed. because a corvette firing on a freighter inside the buoy line is a different kind of incident than one outside it, and Kesek-Na had not signed up for that kind of incident. We crossed the line at 03G on a thruster running at 68% and held together by a mechanic's prayer. The arbitration buoy pinged us. It pinged us in 11 languages. The 11th was Vesh. Disputed party, it said, please prepare to file a counterclaim. Tiruna, who had never spoken her own name in a sentence that began with I, looked at me. The arbitration chamber was the size of a closet and smelled, very faintly, of ozone and someone else's lunch. The buoy was an old one. Most of them are. They build them to last, and then they build the budget around the assumption that they have lasted, which means the air scrubbers are 40 years past warranty, and the chamber lights flicker on a 6-second cycle. The arbiter was a remote AI piped through a podium with a stylus arm. The stylus arm scratched on a slate as the AI listened, which was a flourish, because the AI did not need the slate. Somebody had decided the parties would feel more heard if there was scratching. Kesek-Na stood across the chamber. He had brought 2 witnesses, both kin line. His ring fur was raised in the formal pattern. The translator on the podium rendered his opening statement in clean, clipped standard. The Tiru Kinline files for return of inventory item TIRRU NUS 7K UMD call, unlawfully detained by the human freighter margin call. The item is collateralized against 42,000 units of refined hydrogen owed to the Corvinda cartel. Documentation appended. The stylus scratched. Carrier, said the arbiter. The synthesized voice was a polite contralto. Carrier files nothing, I said. I had thought about what to say on the way in and decided that nothing was the thing to say. I had no standing. I had never had standing. Filing would be a lie and the AI would catch it inside half a second. Acknowledged, disputed party. There was a silence. I had walked Tiruna through it in the corridor outside, in the 4 minutes the buoy gave us to prepare. I had not given her a speech. I do not give speeches. I had told her one thing. The word is there, I had said. Use it or don't, I can't use it for you. She had nodded. The nod was a human gesture, and she had learned it from me in a ship day and a half, which was the kind of thing I was going to think about later when I had time. Now in the chamber she was standing. 3 of her wrists were at her sides. The 4th was raised, palm up, the way she had raised it to me at the airlock. I did not know if she knew she was doing it. I looked at the floor. The deck plate was scuffed in a pattern that suggested heavy boots, decades of them. I counted the scuffs. I did not look at her because looking at her would have been a sales pitch and she had had enough of those. Disputed party, said the arbiter. Please identify yourself for the record. The silence went long. Kesek-Na said, the item does not have standing to identify itself. The kin line will identify it. The item is. Disputed party will identify itself, said the arbiter. Per protocol, the kin line will not speak for the disputed party during identification. Kesek-Na's ring fur went flat. The silence went longer. The chamber lights flickered on their 6-second cycle. The scrubber rattled. I counted scuffs. I got to 41. Tiruna spoke. She spoke in Vesh. The sentence was 4 words long. The translator rendered it in standard half a second later, and the rendering was 3 words. I am Tiruna. The stylus arm of the arbiter stopped scratching for a full second. Then it resumed. Identification logged, said the arbiter. Disputed party has standing. The kin line's filing is amended from return of inventory asterisk to recovery of debtor. The chamber will recess for procedural review. Kesek-Na did not move. He stared at his sister across the chamber, and his ring fur did the thing I had seen on his cousin once, 2 years ago, when I had pointed out that the coolant pump he had sold me was the wrong model. It was the look of a man recalculating a transaction he had thought was closed. He did not look at me. He understood, I think, that the human had not done this. The human had only stood in the chamber and counted scuffs. The chamber recessed. The procedural review took 6 standard hours. The Corvinda cartel, contacted by the arbiter, declined to pursue the debtor across the buoy line, because pursuing a debtor across the buoy line costs more in arbitration fees than 42,000 units of hydrogen is worth. The kin line was offered the option of filing for the debt as a civil matter. The kin line, after a private consultation with Kesekna that I was not privy to, declined. Tiruna was free. She was also stateless. She was also kinless. She was also 17 light-years from any port that would issue her papers without a sponsoring entity, and she did not have a sponsoring entity, and I was not one and could not become one without Vesh paperwork I would never qualify for. I had also lost the contract fee. I had also lost the route. I had also, by the math I did in the corridor while she finished her statement to the arbiter, lost roughly 80% of my forward business, which had run through Vesh space because Vesh space was where the routes were. We walked back to the margin call asterisk in silence. The buoy corridor was long and gray and smelled the same as the chamber. She walked beside me. She did not crouch. In the cockpit, I sat down in the pilot's chair. She stood beside the co-pilot's chair. She looked at it. She looked at me. "Sit," I said. She sat, her ring fur lifted not a millimeter this time, more. I opened the manifest log. The crew field had read CALLOWAY for 22 years. I added a second line. I typed in Vesh badly and the system auto-corrected the spelling. TIRRUNA crew. I looked at her. She was watching the viewport. The stars were coming up against the buoy's running lights, and her fourth arm was resting on the armrest of the co-pilot's chair, palm up, the way she had held it at the airlock. I lit the burn, we went.